Hello everybody, welcome back to the Metal Gear Solid 2, the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, sorry.
And your controller, Pedro.
Wait, hold on. Welcome back. When have we been? Oh, right, we were here for the Metal Gear.
The first two Metal Gears, Jova.
The Metal Gear games.
The first two.
Also, we had a part 0 for this.
No, sure. Well, okay, to be fair, sure, for the part 0, we were looking at E for
just the trade.
Yes.
We weren't actually in the HD collection. Then.
Once again, back in 2011, Bluepoint, the masters of the remaster, did the Metal Gear Solid HD collection, which includes Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3. And by including Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, they also, by extension, include Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. Anyway, yeah. So, Metal Gear Solid 2...
Metal Gear Solid Remake, please
send
help.
Yes, I hope. Metal Gear Solid 2 takes place in between 2007 and 2009. Basically, Shiroi takes place 2 years after the first game. After the Shadow Moses incident, technological data in the nuclear-armed walking tank Metal Gear leaks into the black market. Solid Snake and his allies from the anti-Metal Gear NGO Philanthropy set out in the pursuit of a tanker carrying a new Metal Gear prototype, but Snake falls into a trap by former Foxhound member Ocelot. In his So yeah, there you go, Shiroi. You have to wonder. See, Jova, I stopped myself. See, I know what I'm doing. Yes, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry. Anyway, there you go, Shiroi. Apparently, something bad happens to Snake somewhere in this game. So let's see what happens. Okay, so yeah, and since this was made in 2011, they replaced the Konami Computer Entertainment Japan logo with the now Kojima Productions logo. There you go, Bluepoint Games, of course. There you go. Yeah, the reason I'm playing on the Xbox One is because thanks to the boosted power of the Xbox One, the HD collection runs even better, like with a perfect 60 FPS compared to its original release. So this is the best way of playing MGS. Again, this is one of the things that I really hope if that rumored Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 collection is real, I really hope they use the Bluepoint remasters instead of just going back to the originals, because these are...
The thing that we did mention in the MGS1 playthrough, the fact that Konami had delisted a couple of the titles on digitally, they actually did reinstate it.
David Hayter returns as Snake. Quentin Flynn. Who does Quentin Flynn play? I guess find out. Christopher Randolph returns as Otacon. There you go. Lara Cody. We'll see who she is later. Vanessa Marshall. I actually forgot. I think she's Olga. I think she's Olga. I think, or is it Mulligill? Whatever. I don't. Phil Lamar. Yes, that's Phil Lamar. Samurai Jack. In case you need to know who it is. John Sagan. Paul Hayden returns as the Colonel. Good. Jennifer Hale returns. But as who, I wonder? I guess Naomi, maybe? Cam Clark. Oh, Cam Clark is still in this game, which is weird because...
Probably a flashback.
Written by the Kojima and Tomokazu Fukushima, the same writers from the previous game. CG design, I don't know who that is. Basically, Shiroi, remember that composer I talked about in the previous part? This is his Metal Gear Solid theme that's going to keep going up until 4, basically. And I love this music.
It will become
and I love this music track so much. It's so awesome. That's one of the things about Metal Gear Solid, the Metal Gear Solid series. The soundtracks are all stellar. There you go. Music by Eric Garrison Williams.
Yeah, I think so.
Anything by Rika Muranaka? There you go. My favorite soundtrack is 4's, because MGS 4's soundtrack is just beautiful.
Yeah, I do that as well.
I do.
Yes, he wrote the main theme, Old Snake. Whoops. The one that's like with the acoustic guitar. You know that one? So.
I love that one track that sounds.
The title theme for MGS4, if that helps you, Dibs. Go on, Joe.
I love that one track from Metal Gear Solid 4 that sounds like it came straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean. It shows up in Smash 2 as well.
I wonder who this guy is.
Probably no one important, but...
I think it's the...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, a Hideo Kojima game.
Oh, right.
Basically, Shiroi.
Love.
Basically, Shiroi. In the original game, it just said Metal Gear Solid on the cover, and it was only in the game itself that it said a Hideo Kojima game in the opening intro. But however, Shiroi, starting with Metal Gear Solid 2, Shiroi, Kojima got so much clout at Konami that he became the first game developer to put his name on the box. So basically, Shiroi, every single Hideo Kojima game from this point on will have a Hideo Kojima game under its title, on the cover, on the manual, whatever. Much like Francis Ford Coppola put his name on the Godfather movies. Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather. Basically.
And on the game format, the unrivaled, clearly, Gilson Pontes.
I do have some sad news, though, in regards to the...
Extreme.
I'm sorry, what, Oops?
No European extreme difficulty setting.
I don't think so. I think that difficulty was only on the that's the interesting thing about Metal Gear Solid 2. There were exclusive difficulty modes to certain regions in the original release. This version is based on the American substance release.
Which makes sense. Which, unfortunately,
the story is fictional, and no similarities to characters, groups, or sure, Kojima. Sure. Without spoiling anything for you, let's just say that this story is fictional. It's all coincidental thing. That's a lie. But don't worry, Shiro. It's a lie for a good reason because of spoilers. So
anyway, this is based off.
I can believe you.
Go on, Chava. Go on.
This is based off of the subsistence version, which unfortunately means that it doesn't have all the goodies that the original PS2 release of Metal Gear Solid 2 came with, sadly.
Yeah. Well, it's only the skater board mode. Everything else make it in except for, I guess, the European Extreme mode. Okay, I actually have information about that. I actually have information about that based on people who have hacked into this game and from my own testing. Basically, Jova, the way they did the skater board minigame for Metal Gear Solid 2 originally was they copy-pasted the code from the original game. I think it's... What's the name again?
A skating game that Konami was doing it.
The point is, according to hackers that I've explained about things, what the developers did is they copy-pasted the code from that game into here with little to no changes. As a result, it's very hard to emulate the game, because if you try to boot up this game on PCSX2, the best PS2 emulator, everything works perfectly for this game except the skateboard game, which causes the game to completely shit its frame rate to like 1-2 FPS. According to hackers, apparently the reason Bluepoint took out the skateboard game is probably because they couldn't make it work, because apparently the contradictions in code are very hard, and it would take a long time to sort out and reconstruct the whole thing from the ground up, which Konami probably didn't allow for the time, because this was probably done on a reasonably tight schedule, because it would require a lot more time and resources that Konami probably wouldn't care, because a lot of times AAA publishers are very skimpy when it comes to time and resources for remasters, sadly. So
what a shame! I cannot see the glorious HD model of Frogger's Quest.
So sorry, Jova, but we will not. However, if it helps you, Jova, we will see all the cool original stuff on the subsistence version of MGS3. So I was able to get those, not the skateboard thingy. Trust me, Jova, I tried my hardest to get my own footage of the skateboard game. Trust me. Outside of just using somebody else's footage, I just couldn't, because that game on the emulator it crashes completely. So I couldn't get my own footage of the skateboard. So eventually I just gave up.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay, I understand. That being said, though, at the very least, though, what is my favorite part of the game, Snake Tails, did make the jump over at least.
Yeah, Snake Tails.
I'll explain more about the Snake Tails later when the big twist of this game becomes
these elaborate cutscene was just to show Snake getting on a fucking boat.
Yeah.
And yes, Smash players, that's where Snake's entrance came from.
Yeah, and by the way, Shiro, despite this being a launch year game for the PS2, it was already a fantastic showcase for what the console could do. Look at all those rain effects and all that shit. Remember, this is a PS2 game, and it's an early PS2 game, first year.
That's a lot of rain.
So yeah, trust me, all of the increased budget is on display. I assure you, this is a game that truly Metal Gear Solid 3 will look even better. But this game was a fantastic showcase for what this particular generation of consoles could do. There you go, produced and directed by Hideo Kojima, of course. And there you go, there's an helicopter there. So there you go, basically like we've said before, there you go, the title. Basically like we've said before, Snake is here because there's apparently there's a Metal Gear board, so we must destroy it.
Yeah, so...
Oh, hold on.
Basically kind of hinted at Snake.
Hold on, because Snake has... there you go, Otacon!
Loud and clear, Snake. Kept you waiting. I'm at the sneak point.
He said it, everybody! He said it! He said the line!
Camo's busted. Landing it.
I'll say this, I kind of prefer the 2D art style of the codec calls in Metal Gear Solid 1. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get why Kojima's doing this, show off the capabilities and the tech here and there, but I kind of prefer the stylized take that the codec calls had in Metal Gear
It's
Solid 1.
also weird because it's him playing with the codec in this case as a camera that reflects the only character's face.
Yeah. By the way, Shirai, well, how are the subtitles? Just asking for feedback.
Diverting toys from the SSCEN again.
Okay. Yeah, let's listen, I guess.
Sooner or later. She's better off assuming it's sooner and quit while she's safe.
Too true. Okay, Snake, let's get to work. You know how the technical specs of Metal Gear were sold on the black market?
So, you recall Metal
There you
Gear
go.
Solid...
Ocelot's doing.
Yeah.
So there you go, fucking Ocelot.
And there you have
The
it.
thing is that already starting with these sequels, some stuff it will be kind of a staple. Some stuff will happen still off screen, and will not be
Quite a
complete, picking up from the leftover point. Some of the spin-offs will help mitigate by filling in some gaps.
Yeah.
But you have to expect this kind of thing to happen a lot.
Which is actually what I was trying to say earlier here, like, yeah, okay, already we get a bit of something different here. You recall Metal Gear Solid 1 kind of hinted at Snake finally just relaxing, enjoying life to the fullest? Well, guess he decided life to the fullest means let's hunt down Metal Gear.
To be fair,
You thought that he was going to settle down with Meryl, and no, she's not even in
to be fair,
And there you one major change. The codex are all in 3D. No longer
I already mentioned that.
we already mentioned that.
No longer do we have to look at basically Harry Potter pictures.
Anyway,
Again, already mentioned that. Go on, Pedro.
yeah. Well, okay. To be fair, there are reasons for that. According to what we saw in the trailers, supposedly Snake was going to, but he felt responsible for what and wanted to actually do something to help with the leaking of the Metal Gear stuff. So this is something that, again, the Snake is. I mean, for as much as he refuses to admit, Snake is a hero and he truly wants to do good. So this is definitely something that he would do, in my opinion. Like,
I can agree to that. I guess my issue is, first of all, that's something you only find out by doing the trailers, and us, we tend to scope this stuff out, so not too much of a problem.
Actually,
for us, but if you're
well, to be fair,
playing the game,
sorry, go on.
if you're just playing the game fresh out of the box, like you're going to this right after Metal Gear Solid 1, you might tilt your head. Also, why isn't Meryl along for the ride? Which is kind of the...
That will be explained in MGS4.
Again, like, much later, though. Like, again, I'm just going at this from the perspective of somebody who's
Sure.
come over from Metal Gear Solid 1 to Metal Gear Solid 2.
Like I've said before, Jova, I've always interpreted, again, because James Bond is one of the big inspirations for this series, and trust me, the next game will make that incredibly apparent. This is what I'm talking about. I always took it that it's supposed to be a Bond thing where where Meryl is supposed to be a Snake girl. So and the Snake girl stays in her entry, That's how I always took it. But anyway, yeah. To be fair, Jova, remember, this game includes, and this might as well tell because I don't think I told Shiroi this. Basically, Shiroi, you remember Nastasha from the previous game? The woman who told us about the guns and shit, and told the history lesson on the cardboard box, as you put it. Guess what? In between games, she wrote a book detailing her experience with the Shadow Moses incident. And guess what? That entire book is there for you to read in the game, in the menu. So that book, Jova, actually does mention that about Snake's mission at the very tail end of it. So technically, the information is in the game. You just have to go out of your way to read it there.
Also, when I refer to stuff happening off screen, I was talking more about Ocelot, doing stuff that kept, talking about the Metal Gears, that built up on the stuff that we knew of, that are like him in contact with the Russians.
Well, to be fair, in the first game, the after credits scene hinted that Ocelot was up to something.
Oh,
so
that's what I mean. What I said instead is that we jump a bit ahead of that instead of seeing, but something's wrong.
What the hell?
Lovely.
Wow, we got to sleep by the Marines.
Shank.
Okay, looks like we're not the only intruders on this boat, it seems.
Chopper I just heard?
Affirmative. Probably another cavalry. What's their game? Hijack?
They're probably targeting the ship's controls.
Otacon. How many men do you need to take over a tanker of this size?
Is that a joke?
The ship is run by a computer, so I'd say about 18 people.
I count 17. Sorry, there's just one short. Mission failed.
Yes, 7 for you. Russians?
Mm-hmm.
I could tell by his.
No Marine barber
Yeah.
touched that head of hair.
I'm not entirely knowledgeable about the fact, but isn't it... Oh, there you go. Yeah, the way he's dressed doesn't leave much for imagination.
The
though.
hat, I forgot actually what's the English term for it, but it is unique.
Yep.
That awkward turning.
Animation will improve in the next game. This is considering this is an early PS2 game, I'm willing to give it some slack.
I definitely view this game as a product of its time. Like, again, when this first came out, it was
amazing.
Oh,
it was.
Nowadays, it looks a bit silly, but like with Final Fantasy VII, I'm gonna cut it some slack in that regard. I will say this, though, I don't know if it's just me, but something about Snake's face always looked awkward to me in Metal Gear Solid 2, even when the game first came out. It's like, it feels a little bit scrunched at times.
Sherry, how are the subtitles?
Pyrotechnics, okay?
All right. I'll do my best.
This isn't like Shadow Moses. Reach me if anything
They're
happens. The frequency's 141.1.
Okay. See, the thing is, Shiroi, here's the thing about the original Metal Gear Solid 2, Shiroi. The original Metal Gear Solid 2's subtitles were coded in that font that's very pixelated. I don't know if you know the one that I'm talking about. However, Shiroi, for this remaster, Bluepoint completely redid the 2D assets from the ground up, including the subtitles, so they look a lot more crisper. Trust me, the subtitles in the original release were quite less legible by comparison.
they still need a background though.
Well, they're right next to a. It's white letters in a black background, isn't it?
Pedro,
Oh right. Oh yeah, sure. Those need that. Yeah, true.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we look at the codec cores, I was like, wait, there's a black background right there. But then you mentioned
this actually is a case where Bluepoint changing the font actually works for the better.
Well, oh no, definitely. That font, trust me, that font is much better. It's regardless of the lack of background, that font by itself is a huge improvement. I can tell you that because the original font was nowhere near as good. So yeah, that's another reason why I definitely hope Konami uses this version because these new 2D assets are definitely much better than the originals. Go on.
So let me just start this off by saying this. While I may have some critiques of the story, one thing that is pretty much an improvement all the way is the gameplay.
Oh yeah, might as well go into it. Metal Gear Solid 2 takes the formula of the previous game and refines it even further. For example, the one major problem me and Joe have been having throughout this series up until this point is finally fixed. The key cards are no longer a problem, Jova. There you go. It took us 4 games, but we got there, Jova. We got there.
Yep. 2001, we finally got to that point.
Also, without spoiling here, the backtracking issue is not as big either.
No, this game is basically. Sure, remember how you talked about problems with the backtracking in the first game? This game fixes that. This game doesn't have nowhere near as much backtracking. It's very manageable. This one. Go on.
You've already gotten a bit of a taste of the new stuff that they included in the gameplay going off of the trailers, but assuming that either you did not watch Part 0 or it's been a while since you've seen that, allow me to refine some things as well. One thing that Pedro was showing is how Snake is a lot more maneuverable
Yes.
here with where he can hide and whatnot, what he can
what is
do
it,
here
Otacon?
and there.
Snake, go through that door into the ship's interior. Push the action button down in front of the door.
Yeah, we have to say action button instead of you know.
I will say this, I think even Sakurai kind of knew that, let's be honest, the best way to do the codec calls were with the cool 2D art.
Oh,
which is
sure,
why he
I
brought that back in Smash.
Oh sure, I do prefer the 2D art as well, but again, I'm personally fine with the. Okay, I mean, I technically preferred the 2D ones, but I'm also okay with this. It doesn't bother me personally.
Like I said, it also not embarrassing, but it makes me confused a bit because again, the calls imply that in the codec, I guess the people are holding an object in front of them with a camera, similar to a tablet or smartphone. Currently, which only focuses on their face. But instead with the portrait, I got the idea that it worked on like kind of a pager kind of vibe, where the portrait represented the avatar of the person and just moving represented by the fact they were talking. But otherwise, in universe, the characters were just visualizing, hearing the audio. Where they were not actually seeing the person.
Well, actually, Teo, that theory kind of goes out the window when Liquid does the whole surprise, it's me, brother, and he takes off his glasses and there. So no.
I will say this though. Unfortunately, one issue that is still prevalent in this game
Snake,
are okay. Well, actually, Pedro's showing up. Pedro's showing up. That one issue I do have is that unfortunately are still the fixed camera angles. It may not appear as bad, but as Pedro showed, it can sometimes be a bit tough to keep track of certain enemies if they literally just come up from the edge of where your camera is. Like,
MGS3 fixes this.
Also,
again, further refinements and all that, but yeah.
Also, I forgot. Was the original just on the PS2, or did they?
Originally released as a PS2 exclusive, then it got an Xbox port, then it got a PC port.
Okay, that's why they mentioned the action button. Okay.
Yeah, basically, they had the actors say action button instead of coming into a specific platform. Yeah. This one.
Okay.
And he puts it back.
I also do appreciate about Metal Gear Solid 2 is definitely its nice humorous moments.
Oh no,
here and there.
Kojima's sense of humor is still very much intact in this game, definitely. And okay, here's another thing, Shiroi. We can, as you probably have already noticed, we can take some look like that. So we can corner peeking, which of course will help. Aside from that, pretty much everything from the previous game is here. You have the Sultan radar right there in the top right corner. You have your UI with your weapons and equipment. Snake still is capable of doing every single thing he was doing in the first game. So again, if you've played the first game, you'll be right at home. This is literally just the gameplay of the first game, but further refined. And guess what, Shirai? We're also going to introduce a new mechanic, as you're about to see.
Oh,
Closets.
Hey, this is the HD version. We can watch it on your widescreen.
Ooh, ration. There you go.
Yum.
You probably didn't notice, Shirai, but there was a poster of a woman in a bikini right there.
Poster, yeah.
Basically, Shirai, here's the thing about Metal Gear Solid 2, Shirai. There's more attention to detail in some single sections of this game than entire other games. As plenty of people have made videos about various times, there's so many small details, and I will show a good amount of them over time. Trust me, Shira, there's more attention to detail in this game than in a lot of modern games. And you'll see for yourself when we get to certain bits that I'll highlight. One of those is, of course, the fact that there's a lot of little touches that make the world more believable, like a poster in a locker, for example. Like it doesn't sound like much, but small things like that go further in adding up to building a believable world.
Yeah, the strangulation still has that tranky animation.
All right.
That said, here is one thing that's new about this game here: hiding the body.
Yes, basically, Shiroi, remember how in the first game you just take down a soldier, but if the other soldier saw him, yeah, you would no longer a problem, Shiroi, because now you can do this.
Literally shove that guy in a locker.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
Again, further refining the stealth mechanics.
Now we
This is-
sort of got
this
to
is a
see
Metal
all
Gear
of these
S-
mechanics.
The core.
We sort of
Sorry.
did get to see a sneak peek of these mechanics when we took a look at Twin Snakes, because Twin Snakes
Mm-hmm.
runs off of the same battle and gameplay system here.
Yes.
Snake was a school bully,
Okay.
confirmed.
Keep. Keep. Remember the core theme of the core original idea that Kojima had when he developed this series to begin with was to avoid combat as much as possible. So.
Oh,
Which is funny, given stuff that happens in this game, but that is way,
Well,
way,
I-
way.
Well,
way down.
even the original Metal Gear had the wacky boss fights, so that's always been a part of it. To be fair.
I love
It's
how
not the
Snake's
bu-
bandana's extremities continues to clip through his head constantly.
Yeah.
I assure you, Pedro, it's not the boss fights I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about that one moment, but
Sure.
And
Yeah,
yes,
the funny
here
thing-
is a new addition, the first-person
Oh,
mode.
yeah, the first-person shooting mode. Go on, Dwibs.
Funny thing you mentioned that, Pedro, because of all the I've only just realised this myself, but damn, the IO Interactive really took a lot of inspiration for Hitman from Metal Gear Solid, including its development history. Like, it was meant to be a more actiony game at first, but then it became stealth later.
Well,
on.
there's the fact that the Metal Gear franchise pioneered the stealth genre is no news. I mean, if you're gonna make a stealth game, obviously your primary influence is going to be Metal Gear, because it's like every platformer is going to have some kind of influence from Mario. I mean, it's that one franchise that not necessarily birthed the genre, but pioneered it. Go on.
I mean,
So
the
tell
only,
me, Pedro.
The only real,
Go on,
the only
Vince.
real difference is that the first Metal Gear Solid game still holds up well to this day. The first Hitman game, it doesn't.
Well, okay,
I don't know the context.
Well, you can
but,
count. You can count on two hands how many games from that time period hold up well. Dwibs. Go on,
Okay,
Jova.
also these. Sorry, go on, Jova.
yeah, no.
Look at that. Each individual magazine has its own cover. Obviously, they're low poly, but you can actually tell that they bothered to draw every single individual cover. So again, there's so much attention to detail.
A similar thing happened with Resident Evil 4, which means that the HD texture mod that's currently still being updated on PC takes each one of those textures and remake them from the ground up to actually look.
Hold on, Teo. I have
you're
to.
showing the bar, I guess.
Yes, I'm going to show the bar, but first, I'm also going to show something else. Because this one particular spot, Shiroi, is quite beloved because it shows how much detail has. However, I think I'm going to show in a bit. Yeah, I think it's now. All right, all right, Shiroi. There's a moment before I. Yeah, notice this glass. Check this out. All right, that's one bullet. You know what? I can keep this going as long as you can, game. Let's fill this thing up with holes. See what happens.
Then you get a codec call saying stop shooting the glass.
Oh, Dwibs. Actually, Dwibs, if you do a lot of stuff like this, there you go. There you go, Sheila. Eventually, every individual piece of glass falls into the floor. There you go. So just another demonstration of how much attention to detail was put in this game. There you go. See, you can actually see every individual piece. There you go. They're even like on top of the thing. So yeah, again, yeah. And guess what, Shiroi? When you step on those, it makes noise, which alerts guards. So yeah. Again, the higher budget and the longer development time are definitely on display. Kojima went out of his way to truly enhance the experience as much as possible, thanks to the power of the new hardware and of course the bigger team.
I can see that.
So, oh, trust me, Shiroi, I'm going to show you something that's even better, because this particular thing that I'm about to show you from the bar, Shiroi, is something that is kind of mind-blowing even to this day. Okay.
I mentioned this in the previous part, but go
Okay, so Shiroi, look at that. There's a lot of bottles in that bar, right?
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Shall we try and shoot them? Oh yeah, but I think I might.
I'm gonna stop making cocktails or something.
No, this is not Yakuza, Shiroi. There you go. There's an ice bucket full of ice cubes. Now, there you go, ice cubes. You can shoot them, and they'll disappear because of it. However, Shiroi, you know what? I'm gonna let those ice cubes in there. Oh, look at that. There's also another post of someone. Okay. Let's come back later and check on those cubes later. What do you think, Shiroi? Let's just see if the cubes are still doing fine.
Melt?
Yes, Shiroi. The ice
Yeah,
melts.
for a second I thought-
And there you go. Every individual bottle in this place, Shiroi, is breakable. And the glasses in the bottles will break based on in which specific spot of the bottle you shot them from.
You
I
can
hate
tell.
red wine.
You can tell that they put this section here right at the beginning just to flex and showcase the technology.
Not just that.
Waste of
look,
alcohol,
look,
you
yes,
douchebag.
I know.
It's
right?
it's because what I love about this is that again it may not seem important, but again small touches like these go a long way in making the player immersed in the world, right? Like
This is the kind of shit people go out of their way to fuck
look at
around
that,
with
Shiroi.
their
The ice.
brain.
There you go, Shiroi. The ice melted. Basically, if you stand there looking at it, you can actually see in real time the little pieces of ice slowly getting smaller. I didn't do that because I didn't want to just look at that for a bit, but that's it, Shiroi. The ice actually does melt. There you go.
Has Kojima ever made anyone watch paint dry?
I don't think so.
There's something close to that, Shiroi, but it's more of a dominant thing. Again, without giving too much of a context, one section in MGS3, Kojima originally wanted it to actually last an actual, IRL week. Wanted to make sure that the thing went on for an entire week in time. But probably someone in already told him, Hideo, I understand, but we cannot do that. So he had to rework it a bit. You'll see.
Yeah, again, whatever shortcomings I have with this game, that does not take away from just the amazing sheer level of detail that is in this game. Like, I dare say this game might even rival Shenmue with how much detail
It's
there
like,
is in it.
Remember, well, Shiroi, the only comparable thing I can think of is that for this game, Shiroi, they had the Motozada Mori, the military advisor of the Metal Gear series that started in the previous game. All the animators for this game, Shiroi, they were given a basic gun-holding /using/shooting course by Motozada Mori so that they could properly animate the characters using guns in a realistic manner. So basically, Shiroi, what you're seeing, every time you see Snake using his gun, Shiroi, that's animators who have actually had basic gun training so they can see for themselves how the body moves when they do that.
Anyway, Pedro,
Go on.
Want to save, Snake?
about what you said about, so the idea when you're making a stealth game is to take inspiration from Metal Gear. You know, you say that, but keep in mind, Konami, the very company that owns Metal Gear Solid, made Dr. Latrek, which also was stealth, yet, stealth in that game is,
It's interesting you say that, Jova, because the director of that game actually was a producer for Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops.
Anyway,
So,
what happened with the stealth in that game?
not to mention he was also the director of the first Zone of Enders.
since you're on your own,
Too many
So-
gameplay mechanics at once, Jova. Simple as that.
That would explain it. That one has puzzle solving, riddle solving, Pokemon
Hold
battles.
Hold on.
You sure you got it right?
of course.
So there you go, Shiroi. Since Mailing is not in this game, Otacon took it upon himself to give some Chinese proverbs this time.
All saving.
Yeah. Since Otacon is my backup, Shiroi, he will be the one saving the game. So there you go. All right, everybody. We'll
We're
continue.
off to a pretty good start, aren't we?
We'll continue exploring the tanker in the next part, everybody.
Yeah.
See ya.
So yeah.